Hi there, my friends. We are back with another one from here. Sideways Stories from Wayside School. The last chapter we just read about was John. And this is chapter 18 called Leslie. So there's a kid. And then this is a man with a mustache and a whistle. Do you think that's Lewis the art teacher? We are going to find out. Leslie had 5 fingers on each hand and 5 toes in each foot. For each hand, she had an arm, and for each foot she had a leg, and she was a very lucky girl. She had 2 lovely long brown pigtails that reached all the way down to her waist. When Mrs. Jules asked a question, Leslie would raise one of her hands. When adding, she would count on her fingers. When Paul pulled one of her pigtails, she would kick him with one foot while standing on the other. Do you remember that? That was from our previous chapter we read. But Leslie had one problem. She did not know what to do with her toes. She had 10 adorable little toes and nothing to do with them. As far as she could tell, they served no useful purpose. "Suck your toes, that's what I do," said Sherry. But Leslie's foot wouldn't reach her mouth. "Well, that's all toes are good for," said Sherry, and she put her foot in her mouth and went to sleep. No, thought Leslie, they must be good for something. They just have to be. During recess, she asked Dana, "Dana, what do you do with your toes?" "I scratch the backs of my legs," said Dana. "First I scratch my left leg with my right foot, and then I scratch my right leg with my left foot." "But my legs don't itch," said Leslie. "Oh, that's good," said Dana. "In that case, can you scratch my legs? With your help, I can scratch both legs at the same time." "No, never mind," said Leslie, and she walked up behind Lewis the art teacher and hopped onto his shoulders. So that must have been Lewis the art teacher in the picture. "Lewis," said Leslie, "I don't know what to do with my toes." Lewis tugged her toe. "Yes, that is a serious problem," he said. "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take them off your hands for you, or rather your feet. Just cut them off and give them to me." "What?" asked Leslie. "You don't want them, so I'll take them," said Lewis. "You don't have to worry about them ever again." "No," said Leslie. "I'll give them to Miss Mush," said Lewis. "She can make little hot dogs out of them." Miss Mush was the lunch teacher. "No, I'm not going to give my toes away," said Leslie. "All right," said Lewis, "but I'll give you a nickel apiece for them." "No, you can't have them," said Leslie. "Why not?" asked Lewis. "They're no good for you anyhow, and think of what you could buy for 50 cents. The bell rang. "I'll think it over," said Leslie, and she ran back to class. "Mrs. Jules," said Leslie, "I don't see any reason for keeping my toes." "Oh, Leslie, I'm sure there's lots of good reasons," said Mrs. Jules. "Well, I can't think of any. My legs don't itch, and I can't get my foot in my mouth, and Lewis offered me a nickel apiece for them, and it seems like a good deal. But I wanted to check in with you first." "I think Lewis is pulling your leg," said Mrs. Jules. "No," said Leslie, "he was pulling my toes." "What would he want with your toes?" asked Mrs. Jules. "I don't know, but he's willing to give me 5 cents a piece for them, so I'm going to take him up on it. That's 50 cents. At lunch, Leslie walked up to Lewis. "Okay, Lewis," she said, "you can have my toes for a nickel apiece. That will be 50 cents. "Not so fast," said Lewis. "Let me look at them first." Leslie took off her shoes. Yes, the big ones are good, and the ones right next to them, but the most I'll give you for the rest of your toes is 3 cents each." Leslie was furious. 3 cents each? You told me 5 cents at recess. "I'll give you 5 cents for the big ones. But just look at that scrawny little runt of a toe on the end there. You're lucky to be getting even 3 cents for that. I think you're getting a darn good deal." "I happen to like that toe," said Leslie. "Fine then," said Lewis. "Keep it. I'll just take the 2 big toes and we'll call it square." And he reached to his pocket and he pulled out a dime. "Nothing doing," said Leslie. "These toes are sold as a set. It's either all 10 for 50 cents or no deal. What am I going to do with just 8 toes?" "Then forget it," said Lewis. "I'm not going to give you a nickel for those scrawny little end toes." "Fine," said Leslie. "No deal. My toes will still be here if you change your mind." And she turned and walked toward the hopscotch area. Wait a second, Louis called. I'll give you $1 for each of your pigtails. Leslie turned around and looked at him with fiery eyes. Cut my hair, she exclaimed. Are you crazy? And that's the end of that chapter. I love you, my babies.